As another year has gone by, let's talk about 10 reasons that cinema should keep going. Hey there, what's going on, you guys? So, with 2022 wrapping up, it's about to be over in a matter of hours, unless you're watching this video after we've already gone into the new year. 2023 is coming up on us, and with that, I think it's time for us to look back at 2022 and look at the top 10, what I believe, in my own personal opinion, best movies of that year. With that, I want to say one thing, and that is that when I say best movies, this doesn't mean necessarily in order of how I rated them, which in other words, a movie with a 7 out of 10 rating can get a higher place in this list than a 9 out of 10, because this is personal preference, this is my own taste, this isn't so much critical, it's a combination of critical and subjective. But I would also really like to see your guys, so go down in the comments, tell me your top 10, tell me your opinions. I'm not right, this is just my opinion, I'm just a guy on YouTube. I would love to hear all you guys as well. I got last year a lot of comments, and I appreciate them. Some people mentioned some movies that I forgot to mention, or ones that actually I hadn't seen that I got to go check out. With that said, let's dive right into this. Real quick, before we get into the top 10 ratings of the movies, I'd like to give a quick shout out to some quick honorable mentions. Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, a movie that perfectly combines two genres of mystery and comedy together for a perfect sequel that continues to build on the universe that I'd like to see more of. Barbarian, an over-the-top and extremely interesting horror film that offered more than I expected and held up with some great twists along the way. The Lost City, an extremely entertaining comedy that stars Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum with an iconic fill-in role, which is a little bit of a cameo by Brad Pitt that didn't disappoint, combining adventure with a lot of laughs. Not Okay, a movie that covers an interesting premise of what online social media can do to someone and shows how lies can catch up to you and destroy more than just your life and career. Nope, another ingenious horror film coming to us from Peele, which once again proves that he has a connection to this genre and shows that it can also be taken from older and more classic horror movies, borrow, and use it right. Dragon Ball Super Superhero, a fantastic return to classic anime with a truly riveting plot, fantastic characters, and of course, wonderful anime action. With that out of the way, into the top 10. Kicking off our list for this year is Elvis, directed by Baz Luhrmann and starring Austin Butler. This movie single-handedly made me a fan of Elvis Presley, the singer, and also impressed me so much with Austin Butler. He deserves an Oscar nomination, and I think he should have a run for the win, as a matter of fact, for that award, because of how riveting his performance is in here. This movie combines eccentric style with a very well-paced film that covers most of Elvis's life, while not entirely accurate, and a very entertaining, energetic fashion, injected with tons of brilliant performances, and this movie did not fail at managing to give off some serious energy in a way that very few movies are able to do that early before Oscar season. It's fantastic. Haven't seen it, go check it out, with some fantastic music involved. Up next, The Incredible Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal. This movie takes an extremely out-of-the-box and ridiculous premise, makes it work, and lands it with so much fun along the way, poking fun at all the cliches and stereotypes of Nicolas Cage, cinema, and movies, while telling a story that manages to keep you interested, on the edge of your seat, and laughing the entire time. I unfortunately did not review this movie. I was off for personal reasons at the time, but this movie is something you definitely should check out. If I were to rate it, I would have given it an 8 out of 10. It is fantastic, and it's a movie that just is so good to be real, especially if you're a Nicolas Cage fan, which I am, and I also love Pedro Pascal. This movie has some of the best writing of any movie this year, and I absolutely loved it. Moving on, up next is Bullet Train, starring Brad Pitt, Aaron Taylor Johnson, a completely star-studded cast also included, and it comes to us from the makers of Deadpool. In here we get a brilliant take of spy, comedy, brilliant, gory action, and a lot of interesting turns along the way, with a well-written script that constantly pays off everything that it sets up, and it brings back the feel of old classic, almost Tarantino, Guy Ritchie-style films. This movie is flashy, looks gorgeous to look at, and constantly keeps you locked on the screen. It has a third act on top of a third act, so to speak, and all the characters in here are some of the best I have seen honestly in the last decade, with each one having quirks, niches, and little things about them that make them special, unique, and entertaining. And you really hate to see any of them go throughout this movie. Coming into our next spot is a movie so overdue that I didn't think would come out, but is worth the wait. Avatar: The Way of Water from director James Cameron, the first in a line of sequels to the original Avatar, coming out over a decade after the original one even premiered. This movie is, on a technical level, stunning. This is groundbreaking and has pretty much changed the way cinema is going to be made from now on. It has accomplished such a feat that is rare. Many people are going to benefit from this within this industry because of the strides and steps that this took to become greater than just any film. This movie is an absolute treat for candy of the eye, and it does not lack when it comes to performances. And the story, though pretty by the numbers, is tweaked enough to continually keep you interested in what's happening and make you invested to see even more. This totally grants that we should have more from this universe. Continuing forward comes Everything Everywhere All at Once, starring Michelle Yeoh in an absolutely Oscar-worthy performance in a movie that is extremely psychologically stimulating, but at the same time riveting to watch because of the action, the colors, the production, the direction, and everything involved within it. Again, this is a movie I did not have an opportunity to review. If I did review it, I give this movie a near perfect 9 out of 10. The aesthetic, the script, the direction, the characters, everything about this is nearly flawless. It truly transports you to another world. You are sucked in, and it, upon rewatch, gets even better. This movie constantly is reinventing itself throughout. It keeps you moving from place to place and asks some really great questions that few films do, and does it in a satisfying, intelligent, and emotional way with a fantastic payoff in the end that pretty much only this movie could have pulled off. Up next is a movie I feel will connect to so many people that are into film in so many different ways, and that's why it deserves to be on this list, is The Fabelmans, coming to us from director Steven Spielberg, his love letter to the entire industry of cinema, and basically telling in his own way a reinterpretation of his own life story. This movie is not only an inspiration to anyone who's an aspiring filmmaker, but genuinely does just tell a story that is so innately human and emotional that you connect to it. This movie deserves plenty of attention from the Oscars, as do many of these movies on this list. I think a Best Picture and a Best Director nomination are definitely things it deserves for telling such a great story. Characters in here are extremely well done, backed up by some of the most brilliant performances of the year, and this movie has that Spielberg touch to it, which makes it ever so more special with a bittersweet. It's just so good. I really can't recommend this movie enough, and congratulations to Spielberg on finally making this masterpiece. Just missing out in the top 3 is what I consider to be the best comic book movie to come out this year, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, and directed by Matt Reeves. This movie genuinely has reinvented, I believe, a lot of the things that we've had in comic books. This movie is put on par now with the Nolan trilogy, and it has succeeded in telling a story that is new. This is the Batman we, I think, have wanted to see for a while, at least for someone like me, where he's a detective with brilliant action, a true noir sense to it, and just an overwhelming amount of depth. This movie can be analyzed to death, and Robert Pattinson's performance as Batman is so on point, as are the performances and casting throughout. This movie is stunning to look at. I can't say enough good things about it. If you want to hear more, go see my review, but The Batman is by far the best comic book production to come out this year. Kicking off our top 3 is a movie that has recently come out, but unfortunately is not getting the attention, the credit that it deserves. That is Babylon, starring Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt. This movie is another movie that really gives an homage to cinema, but in its own unique way. Really paying tribute to the early days, the glory days, the golden era of this, massive giant that we have now that has given us so much entertainment, and doing it with so much intelligence and wit. It has spark to it. It has a lot of allure to it. It gives you that R rating that makes it even more enticing and you want to go see it, backed up by some fantastic casting that delivers on some very strong performances. I love this movie so much. I'm honestly love it even more now than when I originally saw it. I'm going to actually change my rating for that movie up to an 8 out of 10. This movie is fantastic. I really love it. I enjoy it from the start to the finish and constantly find myself just filled with excitement and awe watching it. It really is great. I'm hoping it gets more moving forward because this movie truly hit all the right beats. Coming in number 2, and our runner-up for the very best picture of this year is Girl Picture. A movie that is a foreign film that somehow manages to convey so much that's right, really explaining how hard it can be in that age of being a young teenager to, an older teenager to young adult. This movie delivers with ladies that give an absolutely heartfelt performance. This movie is extremely emotional. It is real. Nothing in here feels fake, or even like a movie for that matter. This movie feels like you're watching real people carry out real events in their real lives. And it asks and answers so many questions that everyone has gone through. It addresses so many things and does it with clarity. It does it respectfully. It knows what it's doing, and because of that, this movie is just natural. There's nothing overblown. There's nothing fantastic or extremely cinematic about it. It is a calm, quiet film that delivers on a slow burn, and I couldn't recommend this movie enough for you, particularly if you deal with anything that is a struggle in your life, because it hits so many of the right beats so well, and it absolutely is one of the best movies to ever come out this year. Coming in number 1, and what is in my opinion the absolute best movie to come out in 2022, if you've been paying any attention to my channel, you've already guessed what this movie is, and that is Top Gun Maverick starring Tom Cruise. This movie is perfect, and I mean that in every definition of the word. This movie is, in my opinion, flat out flawless, one of the best movies, not only of this year, but of all time. This is one of the best films ever made. I have actually seen this movie in a theater 12 times now. That should tell you how much I love this movie, that I'm willing to spend that much money on it. This movie is an experience. This is the reason cinema needs to keep going. This is what's keeping theaters alive. This movie is basically perfection. I am not going to rant about it because I've made so many videos on it. If you want, you can check one of those videos out on my channel, because this movie is perfect. That's all I'm going to say. It's flawless. Everything is done right. It hits every beat, and it just hit special for me when I really needed it. It seemed to speak to me in a special way that I might get into in the future. But yes, Top Gun Maverick is the best movie of 2022. Alright, if you've made it all the way to the end, you've heard my opinion. Let's hear yours. Put it down in the comments, let me know what you think, and hey, let's talk about other movies we're looking forward to coming out. 2023 will be coming out, and we'll have new movies then. So thank you guys as always so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you all next time.